Welcome back. My name is Mike Migwe and you're watching Good Morning Kenya. This is People and Politics. And my guests are already in studio. On my far right is Honorable Mark Adingo, who is a governance expert and political analyst. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Mike.
On my immediate left is Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Njuguna, who is a leadership and governance expert. Karibuni sana.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, karibu sana. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing well. Of course, we all, whenever we are going, we are very observant and praying that things are calm.
Yes.
And Kenyans are great people.
Yes.
Because unless provoked, Kenyans are very resilient. So I'm happy. When I drove here, everything is calm, and I pray that it remains the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you make of the events that have happened in the past few weeks?
These events, we have been thinking very deeply about what triggered this, and sometimes we have struggled to know whether could it be something just beyond the finance bill. But I think it's been very, very evident that young people and maybe even many Kenyans get disappointed because of feeling like their leaders are not in touch with them in a way that they are hearing. But when I'm talking about the finance bill, it's because for me as a church leader, we got involved. For the first time, I printed the finance bill and read it. And others have not read. Sometimes I've picked what is in the paper, but this time I chose to read it. And we were among the people that met the finance committee and pointed out specific issues that were very disturbing. But good enough, when they came out of Naivasha, most of the things we raised had been dropped. But my concern right now is because I love young people. I'm a grandfather now. I'm not just a father, I'm a grandfather.
Yes.
And the welfare of the young people is very important. So my prayer is that all of us understand we need to keep the peace. The politicians, because let me give you, a good description of politics. Good politics is about being responsible. But you see, many times, and I'm glad I have a political analyst here, a lot of people go into politics for the money it will bring to them. Because there are two kinds of politicians. There are politicians that are philosophical, but there are others who are merchant. So if we can trust God that the next crop of politicians will be philosophical, guided by good moral values, because the problem we have in this country, from the politicians to everybody else, it's not that we don't have a good constitution. It is actually what can be called a software problem, which is an issue of the heart. And for me as a preacher, I give hope. And even during COVID time, I was on social media telling people keep hope alive. And that's what I've come here with a desire to say to our politicians. And by the way, the challenge we are facing in the country right now is not about the president. It's about all of us. So if you're a leader and you influence any constituency, let us secure the country. Because we don't have another country. So, and I believe we will in concurrence with my friend who is a political person. And this is quite an interesting combination to bring a politician and a clergyman, but I'm sure we will be together.
Yes. Mr. Mark, what I want to know what you make out of this event. And so far, it also speaks to matters of trust in the institution of Parliament. What do you make of that?
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for inviting me here.
Yes.
Yeah, I think at the moment, Kenya is in a very interesting situation. Because one, we have reached a point where we've been talking to each other. Yeah, but now it has given us some time to see how we can talk to one another. I think the issues being raised by the Gen Z, not necessarily issues to do with the Gen Z, but they affect all of us. And this is the right time for all of us to listen to one another. It's the right time for everybody, every leader, to have a good time so that we can sort out our things together. Because for me, I don't think the issues being raised are only about the finance bill. It's more of that. Yeah, things have been boiling. I can say 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. But this is a moment that we can grasp that time and sit down as a country and find ways of how we are going to move forward. Because the problem we have is more of governance, not about the finance bill. Yeah, how our leaders lead us, how our leaders listen to their people, because our country has always been respected worldwide in terms of democracy. But if we can have a good foundation on how we are going to be governed by our people, how we are going to govern our children, how we are going to govern our people, I think this can give us a good chance to transform our country.
The finance bill was just the trigger to bigger issues that affect the country, not only the Gen Z.
Very well.
Yeah. Now, let's take a quick look at what the newspapers are reporting today. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto's budget doublespeak. That is what is carried on the front page of the Daily Nation, whereas the president has directed Treasury to implement budget cuts across the national and county governments. His push for more borrowing beats the very purpose which the austerity measures were intended to achieve. Bishop, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm very concerned about when we talk about borrowing, because we are already in a bad place. I know that when he addressed Parliament, if not for the first time, he said that he was going in the next number of years cut the budget with 300 billion. That one I remember very well. Yeah. But I want to say that the issue of public debt, first we need to be grateful to God that we got a relief through of course, we are not happy with the IMF and World Bank, but at least they helped us because they relieved us of the pressure we had about the Eurobond and gave us an extension. And that's why we did not fail to keep that obligation. So in terms of the ideas of the president and why people would feel it's double talk, and I pray it's not, it's because what people want to see, it's like now, I was one of the delegates in the Public Wage Review Conference, and wonderful, wonderful ideas were shared there. They even at that time said something that was very, very, very good, that they were going to do an audit to know whether there are people occupying public offices without proper credentials and weed them out. You know, that will reduce the cost. So what I'm saying is, if our president can be able to prevail on his cabinet, prevail on all those people who are the higher earners in our society, to be willing to take a pay cut. Because, listen, the universal acceptable public wage bill is said to be should be 35%. Ours is at 46%. And that is why now it becomes so difficult. So what I'm suggesting is we need, so that it can be seen to be a reality. And for some reason, and of course we are all different. We all have different opinions. We are a democracy. So somebody cannot condemn you because of the choices you make when it comes to politics. But because of the challenge that we are having, we can just try, and I'm so happy that he is saying, of course, he is talking to people and needs to talk some more. How long? When are we going to have a national conversation that brings all the people, the civil society, religious leaders, politicians, and they come from all the regions to represent, and then we have an honest conversation. Because what we need to do is to dialogue, and dialogue has always helped. You remember, of course, we had demonstrations that were led by the opposition. You remember that time?
Yes, yes.
And we didn't know what to do. But because of dialogue, that was over. Now we are dealing with a community of people who need to be persuaded, because you realize the opposition, like I had the former PM say, they have told me, weka kado. But the key thing is this: I feel it's the responsibility of all people to say, how do we secure the country? And if the president is willing to talk to everybody, we need to see that he is open to talk to the opposition, talk to the youth, talk to everybody, so that he can, again, be given specific practical things he can do. I heard him say, you may ask me to do some things that I can't do, because I'm also guided by a constitutional mandate, because he's been challenged about the filing of the agriculture CS and all that. And he said, listen, this thing went through a process. I can't fire somebody just because, I mean, if time came, and he has said, and I hope he can carry this out, that if any person in his government is corrupt, he will not cover them. But I'm hearing what the young people are saying. Let us see something happening that can persuade us that we are cutting expenditure. I raised the issue of government expense in some articles because I'm involved in a lot of governance issues. I wrote an article that the crisis we are in as a country is that we created very big governance representation. And I'm still persuaded, and I know I'm saying it on public television, Kenyans are overrepresented. But now, nobody wants to hear about cutting counties. They actually are saying they need to be increased. You have heard that talk. One person, and I can't mention names, who was a senator at the time in Coast Province, said in a meeting I was, organized by the Catholic, it was a Catholic meeting, but I attended, that any sensible Kenyan would know that we don't need more than 14 counties. Are you listening? But how many do we have? 47. They all have the governors and so there are so many employees. So this public wage bill, it's easier to say that we are going to cut it than it is a reality, because it means governors accepting to take a pay cut. All the members of parliament accepting will take a pay cut.
Is it possible? Can they take that initiative?
The challenge now is if you tell them to take a pay cut and then the tax is raised.
Because even the Gen Z are proposing that members of parliament be earning not more than 200,000 shillings.
Let me tell you, where we are now, and that's why I'm saying we need a public conversation, an honest conversation. Because again, you see, corruption, we have had it from time to time from the Auditor General over the years, that we are losing a third of our income through corruption. You have heard that. Now the question is this: corruption is when there is dishonesty and where somebody uses an office to benefit themselves. And that's why I say that if somebody is in government, and we should be held to account, even for me as a senior pastor of Deliverance Church, Nangata, where I pastor, I cannot do whatever I want to do. I have to invite people and tell them, please hold me to account, because it is so important. Leadership is about being responsible. And that's what I'm saying, because we want to secure this nation. If somebody calls themselves a leader, whether from the religious sector, whether from the political sector, regardless of your party, because let me tell you, Kenyans don't care about parties. What Kenyans care for is about good governance. And good governance is what gives people good roads, medicine in their hospitals, and schools running well. And let me tell you, when schools programs are running well, do you care whether you are in Azimio or in UDA?
No.
And all this is about governance. There's a Nigerian who has said a statement which I think every one of us should think about, that good governance is what will kill corruption.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Good governance will kill corruption. Because if police officers are not remunerated well, they are subjected to feel like they have to stop you and you get something in their hands because they cannot make their heads meet. But if there was good governance and a good distribution of resources in a responsible way, and we were willing to bite the bullet and get the government cut, let me tell you, during the time of President Uhuru, after the handshake, I was very hopeful that they have come together. I was hoping that that was the time we were going to cut government, because it's a legislative issue. But now when that didn't happen, we are still in the same place, shareable revenue,
right,
and all that.
All right. Now, Mr. Mark, I want to know how you feel about this headline, Ruto's budget double speak, and how this now is going to be a very delicate balancing act between expenditure and revenue sides.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I will start from where this government took over. Yeah. I remember the president gave instructions so that all ministries can cut budget by over 300 billion. Yeah, and then after that, that was done. After 1.5 years, the budget rose to almost 4.2 trillion. I think that's where we lost it, because if we can manage to stop these issues of corruption, if we can manage to stop wastages, because you'll find I don't think the budget we have is not enough. The only problem we have is we're having a lot of wastages and a lot of corruption.
What about priorities? And
then there's also a very important point you are raising, priorities. We are doing things which are not even our priority. And I think that has brought us to where we are now. And this conversation, I hope and I believe, if we are all sincere and we sit down with sober minds, I'm sure we're going to get a solution. Because, Migwi, if we can only stop things of development, at least for now, and we give ourselves like 10 years so that we can return our country back to where it was. Let's get money from, let's see how we can improve on our collection, on our revenue. And let's not have a bloated cabinet. Because I remember when Kibaki took over, he had a very lean government of less than 14 ministers. But in a situation like ours, we are having many ministers. And if we continue to put so much in salaries, I think we'll be missing the point. So what I would say is, let's have a conversation. Let's get our priorities, what is supposed to be done. We need to have money for the counties, because I don't agree with those saying we need to cut the size of the county governments, because since the devolution, a lot has happened. A lot of development is going down to the person down there. So I would say let's have money for the county government. Let's have money for the government, for the three arms of the government, that is the presidency, the executive and the judiciary. Then we need to find ways of how we can stop corruption.
Yes.
Because no matter how much we raise and no matter how much budget we have, and we fail to put it in the right hands, we will always be down with the issues of we are not having enough money. We want to borrow. Because I think borrowing is good. But also we need to borrow money and put it somewhere where our people can see some things are happening. Because in our case, you find, and you have raised a very important issue of trust. You find the government borrows a lot of money, but when it comes to implementation, that money, our people cannot even find where they can trace that money. So there are also issues of trust. And I think all of this, the budgeting, the corruption, it can be very well solved if we can have a national conversation. I think the president should have a national conference where we have all stakeholders so that we can discuss about our issues of this country. Because I think more of our problems is because we don't involve our people. And the same thing is happening with the Gen Zs. Because I've never been involved in governance. That's why you find them, they want to be more involved, which is good. And I wish to say that was a good trigger, because now it has given us a platform where we can sit down and discuss issues for our country.
But even as you talk about that, we are good at having dialogue and coming up with reports. Where do we fail? Because implementation has always been a problem. What goes wrong?
Yes, that's why I said we have very good ideas. We have very good views. But when it comes to implementation, that's where the problem is. Of recent, we had the NADCO report, which stopped the demonstration from the opposition. But the report is lying down there. It has not been implemented. So we need also to be honest on ourselves when we have these conversations. Whatever we agree, we need to implement it. Because talking is one thing, implementation is another thing.
So, Dr. where do you think, in terms of, what do you think needs to change if at all we are to implement whatever we talk and agree about as a country?
What we need to do is to get all leaders take responsibility in their area seriously. Because you see, like now, he just mentioned about the NADCO report. One of the things that has disturbed me personally from a governance perspective is that knowing how elections are emotive in this country, we have not reconstituted the electoral body. And you know, there was a select committee that went out and they did a lot. But at one point, they could not continue because the opposition said, no, we were not represented. And then I am in the Interreligious Council, as one of the leaders in the Interreligious Council. We went and made a proposal. Instead of all this argument, why don't you add two people? One from the Azimio side, the other one from UDA. Then reconstitute now where everybody is feeling represented. But you see, because one of the things that is so worrying about this country, and I don't know how we are going to resolve it, is that issue of trust. Because when trust is not there, and I say, if you are a leader, leadership is a social contract between those you are leading and you as a leader. And they have a certain expectation. So if you're not in touch with them, if you're not doing what you promise, let me tell you, I pray, and it's still my prayer, that before the end of this year, before the end of 2024, whatever has delayed this will be done. Why? Because if we don't bring an electoral body who will have enough years, and we have a 2027 coming, and we know how elections are emotive in this country, then are we trying to get to a situation where we are going to run into another crisis? Every time when people don't accept results, they have to go to the Supreme Court and all this. And we need to believe that institutions, and I like the fact that the President has repeated many times, that we are a country that has to adhere to the rule of law. But even in adhering to the rule of law, laws are not the issue, like I said in the beginning. is those who execute, those who implement. You're talking about implementation. Why has it been difficult for the implementation of the NADCO report? How long since it went to Parliament? Why is it not executed? Can we know which is the gap? Now, right now, I think Parliament is in recess. Can it be taken as a question of big priority that especially for the reconstitution of the electoral body, we have Kenyans in this country who have not been represented by a member of Parliament for almost 2 years now because their member of Parliament died, but there was no... So I think I agree with what this has been discussed here by with the political analysts, that we have a problem in executing, and let me tell you, government does not have any shortage of good policies. Even on the youth. If you check out what was the youth policy, one of the things that was in the youth policy is that young people were going to be involved in governance. But now maybe they're asking, okay, and sure enough, of course, even in Parliament, we have some young people. But I don't know what happens, because it seems in this country, unlike some of the countries in our neighborhood, once I was in Addis Ababa for a conference, and they told us, for us here, when you become a member of Parliament for the first time, you even can't change where you live. No, you can't. You can't afford it. But what happens in our country? You just become a member of Parliament. The first term, you move, you change your residence, you change the car you are driving. Is it not true? You change everything. Yes. And so that is why now the temptation to engage with some degree of corruption becomes greater to be able to cope. And again, politics has become a big game of money, so that somebody wins a political position, not because they are a leader, but because they can be able to buy people. And sometimes you have had even where people, I had years back, where in a certain constituency, they were telling you, give me your ID, shika hii 100 ama shika hii 50. So that you are completely, you can't be able to engage in the politics. But I want to say this because it's very important. And as a preacher, let me put it this way to all politicians and officials of government. The Bible says in Luke 12:15, guard your heart from all kinds of greed. Yes. For one's life does not consist on the things you possess.
Thank you. Let's take a break. We'll come back and talk more on that, because there's something you have raised, and it's about the people we elect. And we are going to explore that in a bit. Don't go too far. This is People in Politics on Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Honorable Mark Dingo and Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Jogona in studio, tackling various issues that are affecting the country. And before we went on a break, you said something about the leaders we elect, and something clicked in my mind. Even as a people, there's a problem that comes up when we are electing people. We do not fully scrutinize their intention or whatever they are bringing to the table. And this has led us to this situation. Bishop.
I want to say this to Kenyans watching everywhere, and I know this goes beyond our borders. When you are electing a leader, find out their track record. Not what they are promising to do, but what have they already done. And we have said there are two kinds of leaders. Some are guided by certain philosophies of leadership that are not supposed to be self-centered, but are supposed to be for the welfare of all. But I dare say, and I know I may not be a friend of many politicians for saying this, but we have so many politicians who are merchants. They are there to make the money. And that's why the issue of salary, you address the issue of salaries. Yeah. If you talk about reducing salary, I used to work for the government myself, and you're talking about you're talking about the early 90s. Are you listening? And what I was working actually at a salary section. You remember the office of the president, when you go there is a place where there was like the salary section, and the difference between then and now, we were using these big ledgers. I don't know if you can remember those things. But that time, the position of an MP was not attractive because they were receiving very little. Now we have made the salary of an MP so big that it becomes a matter of life and death to secure that position. Now, if these people are public servants and they realize that the country is hurting so bad because of the economic challenges, those who are philosophical leaders will be willing to take a pay cut for the sake, to tell the president, please, instead of borrowing 1 trillion to fund your government in the next 1 year, I'm ready to take a pay cut so that we can reorganize. But this can only come because of honesty and also the idea of our anti-corruption body. Because now we have a chairman who is a former bishop, you know, as chairman of the anti-corruption body. We have this report that they investigated 17 files and they thought it was airtight. When they took them to the director of public prosecution, he only admitted 1 and returned the other 1. My prayer, 2 things I think will be very, very important. When we go to the next election, because the ones who are there now, and I want to make a passionate, very humble appeal to our young people. Please understand the contract between us and these leaders who are there is 5 years. And let us prepare for 2027. If we say we are going to rock everything down and, you know, like some of the things we are hearing, of course, our young people say, we can go into a crisis that can put us far back. And look at countries like Sudan, look at some of the countries where these revolts have come. Is there something very, very positive? Because, you know, we have, if you read the history of Mahatma Gandhi, his was a peaceful protest and it achieved the desired objective. Martin Luther King is still celebrated. Even if he was shot, his was a peaceful agenda. Let me pray that if these young people must demonstrate because it's in the Constitution, please let us see how do we keep them as young people doing it without infiltration, because I'm sure they are not the ones who knocked the walls of Parliament. They are not the ones who rooted that supermarket there. So we really need to think about that national conference, and I think it should be sooner than later, where we can talk openly and let us also, for those of us who are in the media, remember that when you report, all media houses, we appreciate that you are giving information. But remember this information now with the digital issue, it goes out so quickly. And I live in America, I did my studies in America. There are things that sometimes happens that are so terrible in some of the cities in America, but they never go beyond that locality. Let's localize some news so that we can save the image of this country that we love.
Thank you. Now, on the front page of the Standard, between a rock and a hard place, that is what the Standard is carrying through. The youth are occupying everywhere to honor their fallen comrades and to put pressure on the government on matters governance. Bwana Mark, are we going to see a shift in terms of governance in this country, given the issues raised by Gen Z?
Yeah, thank you. I think the situation we are now, I'm very sure is going to give us some changes, because you know, leaders are elected by the people, and when your people talk and ask you to follow a certain route, as a leader you need to listen and follow. And I see the issues which have been brought by the Gen Zs are very important issues, and they are very good for our country. And I want to say, since the president has agreed to talk to them. The only issue which has been raised has been the issue of trust, because the Gen Zs fear that any time they talk, any policies which are going to be made by the government won't be implemented. But I think we cannot we cannot say that we are not going to reach somewhere. So I think once we have this conversation and people bring in their ideas, we are going to have some changes. And I see a different country, Kenya, in the coming years, because for one, we have gotten a different group of people who wants to be heard and who wants to have this country to be run in a transparent way. And this is it's a departure from the past, where we used to have the opposition as the one driving the opposition for the government. This time we are having a different opposition. And I want to believe their issues are very, very weighty, and they are going to help our country to move forward. Because if you look at what they are saying with the budget, if we can listen to them and we do some of the things, I know some things might be even not possible because of this is a country which is governed by law, and if we can balance whatever the Gen Z are asking and follow the law, I'm sure we are going to put our country in a better position. One, the president should look at the priorities, because I don't think it is wise. Every time we have a new government or we have a new minister, you get into your office, and the first thing you're going to do is to buy new furniture. The second thing you want to do is you want to paint the office. Those are some of the things we are doing. The Gen Z are saying those are wastages. So we need to stop one on the wastages. And I think also we need also to do some radical things. The president might also think of how he can reduce the cabinet. We have ministers of not more than 10. Let's have PSCs of not more than 10, so that whatever we are going to get from the KRA, we can put it in good use. Something else which needs also to be done is the issue of corruption. We need to see people being prosecuted up to the end.
Up to the end.
You take somebody to court, the case takes less time, and we see that person being jailed. Because unless we have we have some things done radically and practical, I think we'll continue to be talking.
Does it also speak to the goodwill of the government in terms of fighting corruption? Because I think that is an area where many people see that the government fails in terms of goodwill.
Yeah. You know, the government, all the governments talk about corruption, and unless we see it being done practically, we start from the top down to from the executive down to the counties. I think we'll be just talking for the sake of talking, because one of the things which has brought our country back to its knees is corruption. He has said it. Anytime you get elected, you want to buy a new car, you want to buy a new house, and if we look at the salaries of these leaders, they don't match whatever they are doing.
No.
You've heard what the Gen Zs have been doing out there. I've been asking. We have people who just got into the government the other day, but in less than 2 years, you find somebody's giving 20 million in a fundraising. You wonder where these people are getting money, and the economy is too bad. So I think we need to change on the way we do our things. And also, I think we also have a problem. You talk about the politicians.
Yeah.
You know, the politicians we have is a reflection of the society.
Yes.
That is
what
we are. We are the ones who put them there.
Yeah.
And because one of the things which has meant corruption to be practiced in most of these offices by the politicians is the process they undergo before they become elected. You find that somebody spent, like an MCA will spend not less than 10 million to get that seat. And if you compare that amount with the kind of salary he's going to get, that person will be forced to maybe find other ways of getting that money back. The same way applies to the MP. MP will spend not less than 20 million before, at least the minimum.
10 million.
And if you are elected, the salary and whatever the benefits you get, you'll find that you want to get more money so that next time you be elected. So we also have a problem with our community, the way we have been socialized. We believe anybody who comes with a lot of money is the right person to be elected. So we need also to talk to the community, the electorate, so that they can scrutinize our leaders.
It also means there must be a shift in the mindset, in the way we see people that we elect.
Yes. And that, I think, we are going there. Because if you look at the Gen Zs, what is happening now, they are questioning the people who they elected. Those who elected, who voted no, who voted yes for the finance bill, are having issues with the Gen Z. And I think that is a good thing, because moving forward, in the future, that conversation can go down to the electorate, whereby people will elect people who can listen to them. Because a good leader is one who listens to his people. And unless you listen to your people, you have no business of leading them.
Yes.
So I think that we are having issues, but I think if we can have an honest conversation and put everything on table and implement whatever is going to come out of it, we'll see some changes for our country.
Doctor, you have to agree that this is a generation or a demographic that is well informed and is tech savvy. They know the happenings or the things that are affecting the country. And now that the dialogue is the dialogue option has been placed on the table, where or how do you see, what form do you see it taking and the direction of the same?
One thing, if this dialogue is going to take place, it needs to be representative. In other words, there has to be a way we know that we are getting young people from all over the country. And remember, these protests have taken place across the country. But it's important to give dialogue a chance. And there's something I feel that you have said that is very important about revenue collection. I don't want to lose that thought. I'm appealing to the Kenya Revenue Authority to contemplate on how they can hire even some of these young people who are looking for jobs, who have done anything to do with public relations. Because I'm still persuaded, if we use a strategy of persuading people why we must pay tax for good governance, for us to be able to run the government, and it's actually something captured in the Word of God in the book of Proverbs 22, verse 7 to 9, says, "The rich rule over the poor. Now, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Now, whoever sows injustice reaps calamity. Whoever sows injustice reaps calamity. And the rod they wield in fury will be broken." Now, but since the generous will themselves be blessed, for they share food with the poor. What I'm saying is this: let Kenya Revenue Authority hire people who have studied public relations. Let them go everywhere and tell Kenyans, please, you can pay tax to liberate our country from bondage. Because now we are slaves. If the president is going to borrow another 1 trillion to further his government this year, it will put us deeper in trouble. Because remember, the government is such a huge machinery. We have the men in uniform. We have a budget for schools, a budget for hospitals, a budget, so they're so huge. And I still agree with you. I don't know whether it can be done now to cut the cabinet to half. That is going to be a very tough decision because everybody who wants to lose their position. But can we then say that we are going to fight corruption hard and there be evidence even that the Gen Zs will see, surely the president has had. Because right now, like you are saying, he is between a rock and a hard place.
That is what the
and let me tell
saying.
you, we also need to be aware. And we need to, and I would have wanted to know, is this just about the Gen Zs, or could there be people underneath who are faceless, who are engineering them? And that's why we said in our statement, because we issued a statement as the Inter-Religious Council not long ago. We said it will be immoral for any politician to try to get mileage from this grave situation. This is a very serious issue because you're talking about the nation. And this nation, we want Kenya to be a good place for us, for our children, and for our grandchildren. And the other day, I learned that even my grandkids could not do exams because the things were very chaotic. So we are begging our young people. I wish they can know how important it is they are to this society. And I said many, many times, they are greater stakeholders for the well-being of this country than those of us who are a bit older. So they don't know, you do not have, if you know that the president has had, can we give him a chance to see whether he's going to implement what is being suggested?
They have said they want to have that dialogue with the president, but he must, the dialogue will happen on X space.
And the president has agreed?
Yes.
The president has agreed. So that is where I'm asking, how or what form is this conversation going to take?
The challenge of just going there, how many of us, I don't know about him,
Yes.
I try to be as digital as possible, but I'm not. I don't know whether I want to engage in the X platform. For me, I would be happier that even after they do that,
Yes.
because I had the president said it will happen tomorrow and the day after.
Yes.
But in another 2 weeks, can there be a national conference where now even these young people will come and present a document making proposals? How will government raise the revenue? And then it comes from the religious sector, the civil society, all this, so that we can be saying, Mr. President, we know you told us you inherited a government that had empty coffers, but you have been collecting tax. We want to make sure the tax you are collecting, we are using it in a transparent way. We don't want to see your cabinet going around showing off, and let me tell you, we say in our language, when you are full, cover your stomach. Please, when people are suffering, you don't want to go and you are showing them that, because they are asking themselves, where is this coming from?
Quickly, Honorable Dingo, how do you see this conversation going? How will it turn out?
I think, as I said, where we are in a good place, because at least now we are talking and we can have a conversation. The president has agreed to talk to the Gen Z through the X space, which is good, because the issue being raised by the Gen Z of not wanting to have some leaders and some people to sit down with the president are the issues to do with trust, because they fear any time you expose yourself as a leader, you'll be compromised in less than a few days. So it's a good way, and I think the president can go ahead and have a meeting. We can meet the Gen Z through the X space, because what is being but what is being asked by that group is they want to see some of the things to be implemented. You'll get their ideas, put them in paper. Then after that, as you have said, we can have a national conference where we can have a larger grouping, where we have all the stakeholders. We can have something like a meeting at Kasarani, where we have different types of leaders, different types of stakeholders. People will come with their memorandum, they will come with their ideas. Then after that, the president can combine all these ideas. The one for the space, from the space agency people, and then the other one from the stakeholders. Then from there we can have a final way of agreeing on some of the things which the president needs to implement. Because I understand, even after giving him those ideas, him as a president, he has his own advisors who will also come up with a different set of ideas. Then we'll come to a middle ground where we can have our country move forward, a win-win situation. But the major problem of that also will come down to, will it be implemented? So we need to have a clear roadmap whereby within a short time or period we have this being implemented. And I think all will be sorted, because I'm very sure even the Gen Z love their country. Everybody loves our country. Nobody wants our country to go into anarchy. We want to have a peaceful country. We have to have a good government whereby the ideas of these people are taken into consideration. So I think we can go there, and I think the conversation will be positive.
Can the church be the voice of reason in all this? And how
I think
I believe the church can be the hope of reason, because number one, we are not supposed to show as if we are condemning the youth, neither can we be condemning government, but we need to look for a middle ground where we are looking for a win-win. But that does not mean we don't condemn corruption. Corruption has to be condemned by everybody. But since we are almost closing this program, I want to appeal to the young people of this country. I've written a book, and I didn't talk about it, how we can overcome spiritual lethargy. But I've said that this is the greatest thing that you can do to conquer, to have personal development. Please, I know you have gone to school. Have ideas. Pray that God can give you ideas. Because there are a lot of young people in this country, and these young people can be a great resource. But these young people, if they use the energy, because the Bible says, I'm writing to you young people because you are strong. If they can use that strength positively, and that's what we should encourage them, this country will go places. And let us know, Kenya is a country for all of us, and the older and the young, we have to live together. Because these are our children and grandkids. Please don't say that you want to get rid of me because I'm a bit older. I need to embrace you, and we need to show that we are accommodative to each other so that we can build a strong Kenya for all of us to enjoy.
I'll give you 1 minute to talk about this book.
Now, this book, Overcoming Spiritual Lethargy, I wrote it following the COVID-19, but it has a context in which it is encouraging hard work. Because one of the things that we need to understand is that if somebody is lazy, and I say laziness actually is a learned behavior. No one was born lazy. But it's a learned behavior because we fail, and sometimes our parents have to blame that we make it things so easy for our children. They don't even know that they can eat and move the plate from the table to the sink because you have employed a worker. So what this book says is that we need to enhance a culture of hard work. We need to reward hard work. We need to be able to get rid of the average mentality. All those things are in this book, and it's available. But I think I'll leave one of the copies here
Yes.
for you to read and maybe share.
Yes. Bwana Mark, what are your closing remarks?
I think my closing remarks, I would want to say, let the conversation continue between the president and the Gen Z, and let also the communication continue between each stakeholder for this country. And moving forward, I would want to ask our leaders to always listen to their people. And we need also to have only one agenda, one agenda of making our country, Kenya, successful and peaceful, whereby each and everyone loves one another. Then we need to grab this idea of the Gen Z. They have come out tribeless. Let's find ways of doing away with this tribalism, this politics of tribalism, where we have people running behind their leaders. We need to move away from that tribalism and have one country, Kenya, so that we can move ahead with our development.
Gentlemen, your time is much appreciated.
Yes.
That is Honorable Mark Dingo, the governance and political analyst, and also Bishop Dr. Geoffrey Njuguna, leadership and governance expert, joining us here on Good Morning Kenya for People and Politics. My name is Mike Migwe. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya continues shortly, but now on Radio Taifa with Rashid Mumkondo. Stay with us.